morning, good people. Welcome to Friday, all my fire fam. It's the Friday edition of Burn It Down with Kim Brown. Of course, this is the place, the safe space, where we set oppression ablaze and we know that something, meaning a better, greater society for marginalized people like Black, Indigenous women and Two-Spirits and LGBTQ and our trans people, like a better society will and must arise from those ashes. I'm so excited to see all of y'all's specific smiling faces up in the place. I see all my people in here. I see Latif in here. I see Toby in here. I see Chuck Diesel in here. I see D Will up in the joint. I see Northern Witch. I see, who else do I see up in here? I see everybody. Big Teal is up in here. Shirley is up in here. All my good people up in here. And if you're new to the Fire Fam, welcome. We want you to come on in, take your shoes off, only if your feet don't stink, and get comfy because we have a fantastic show in store for you all today, guys. Later in the program, we are going to discuss this bipartisan agreement between Democrats and Republicans in the House. And of course, the Democrats and Republicans often agree on a lot, despite this whole blood versus crip, donkeys versus elephants. But what's the word I'm looking for? It starts with bimodal political structure that we are presented, that Democrats and Republicans are often against each other. No, when it comes to certain issues, they agree wholeheartedly. And when it comes to fucking over Palestine, they always agree on that shit because the House, with Democrats overwhelmingly in support, voted for an additional $1 billion for the Israeli so-called Iron Dome, their missile defense system. Well, y'all's girl, I'm gonna call her y'all's girl because y'all know y'all love Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. AOC broke with the squad, and instead of voting no, she voted present. Now, of course, there was no chance that the squad, even as a voting bloc, was going to stop this funding of the Israeli Iron Dome. But AOC, she ain't got no more progressive street cred out here. She's losing it steadily by the day. But one congressperson stood very strong on the floor of the House and called out the Israeli apartheid state for exactly what it was. And I'm gonna tell you who that congressperson was in just a bit, and the response that they got from Democrats and Republicans alike for telling the truth. Okay, but that's later in the show, guys. We're gonna start off this show talking about a subject that we seem to be revisiting here with some frequency as of late on Burn It Down with Kim Brown. Of course, last week we spoke about how fucking useless the police are, specifically the FBI, because they were made aware of the abuse of Olympic gymnasts by Dr. Larry Nassar. And after Michaela Maroney, Olympic medal-winning gymnast, very bravely disclosed to the FBI, they sat on the information and allowed 70 other gymnasts to be abused by Larry Nassar. So that's why we need to defund and abolish the police. Why? Because they don't keep us safe, right? But broadening this conversation about rape culture and abuse and rape enablers just a bit. If you had the opportunity, if you've been paying attention to the news, last week you may have seen rapper Nicki Minaj tweeting out some absurdity concerning the coronavirus vaccine. Now, Nicki Minaj tweeted out that her cousin's homeboy in Trinidad, got the vaccine and his testicles swell up and now he ain't gonna get married. Spreading enough disinformation from her social media platform, enough that the ministers of health from Trinidad had to address this on national television. However, you guys, the whole story with Nicki Minaj getting high five from the right and Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens like, yeah, Nicki Minaj, which y'all don't get. Well, maybe y'all do get, but the mainstream does not understand that display was a distraction because Nicki Minaj and her husband, Kenneth Petty, are being sued by the woman whom Nicki Minaj's husband, Kenneth Petty, was convicted of attempting to rape. Okay, now Nicki Minaj is harassing this woman. According to this woman, she has sent some goons to threaten this woman. This woman has been intimidated. Her family members have been intimidated. And let me explain something to y'all, man. If you stand with women and you believe women, this is not the kind of shit that you engage in. Okay? And second of all, and third of all, if you know that your husband was convicted of rape and you know the details about that shit, maybe be a little bit more quiet in your defense of your rapey ass husband, okay? That is not the way to go. But I wanted to share some things with you all, okay? So the woman whom, again, Nicki Minaj's husband was convicted. He was convicted of attempted rape. He was initially charged with rape. He was convicted of first-degree attempted rape and served 4.5 years in jail for this. So this is not like simply an accusation with nothing behind it. This man had his day in court and was found guilty and served time and was required to register as a sex offender. And part of the reason why this whole story is sort of back in the news again is because I guess when he moved to California, he failed to register as a sex offender, which is a big no-no. So he had to go back to court and enter into a plea deal. But then that's where this woman's name started to be resurfaced throughout the blogosphere, and now in mainstream outlets. Because this week, her name is Jennifer Hough. She's 43 years old. She appeared on the show The Real daytime. Y'all know The Real. Garcelle Bouvet, Young Jeezy, wife. I don't know who else is on The Real. The girl from 3LW. I don't know who else to categorize who else is on The Real. But I want you guys to take a listen, okay? Because we're going to be taking a look at a variety of different clips from this interview, because this interview was riveting. And actually, I'm going to drop a link to this interview in the chat in just a moment. But I wanted us to open the show by you guys getting a tiny bit of context and some understanding as to why Jennifer Hough is now suing Nicki Minaj and her husband, Kenneth Petty. And again, guys, this has to do with rape. This is rape culture, rape enabling, covering up for rapists, trying to make shit easier for the rapists. I mean, it's fucking crazy. So this clip that we're about to see, we are going to hear specifically from Jennifer Hough's attorney. His name is Tyrone Blackburn. And Tyrone is going to explain the details of the lawsuit and why he felt his client had to take this action and file a lawsuit for her own protection. Tunde, if we could take a look at A2, please.
We would not be here but for the actions of Kenneth Petty and Nicki Minaj. The lawsuit deals with two things. First, it deals with the crime of 1994, when Kenneth Petty raped Jennifer. And it also deals with the actions of 2020, when Nicki Minaj and Kenneth Petty decided to send their associates to Jennifer and harass her for a 7-month span to get her to recant her story from 1994 in order to get him off of the sex offender registry. So the lawsuit deals with harassment, intentional infliction of emotional distress, sexual harassment, sexual assault.
Jennifer, what kind of harassment do you allege that you faced?
There was an associate of Kenneth and Nicki Minaj who came to the state that I was living at. I've been harassed by people calling family members that I haven't even spoken to or seen in quite a while, offering money, phone calls from different people in regards to this supposed letter that I written. People approaching my daughter. People approached her in a club and asked her about Kenneth Petty, and she wasn't even born at the time that this happened. So yeah, it's been pretty awful.
Jennifer, have you ever spoken to Nicki directly?
I did, in March of 2020. She called me and she said that she got word that I was willing to help them out in a situation. I didn't understand what she was referring to. She offered to fly me and my family to LA. I turned it down, and I told her, woman to woman, this really happened. And I hadn't spoken to her since.
Powerful words there from Jennifer Hough when she sat down and spoke with The Real. And I want to bring in our guest. She has joined us here before on Burn It Down with Kim Brown, and we love her because she epitomizes Burn It Down. Please, guys, help me welcome Amorous Ebony to the show. Amorous Ebony is an activist with the hashtag Say Her Name Coalition. Hello, Amorous. Is it Amorous or Amorous? Because I look at it, I see Amorous.
It is Amorous, but it's totally fine. I hear both, and yeah, so it's fine. Yeah.
So Ebony, basically Ebony with love. Ebony is coming to this with love, with the Molotovs already lit in her hand. So
of course.
Ebony, so I DM'd you today, and I'm like, did you see this interview with Jennifer Hough? Because, guys, hold on. Let me drop this in the chat for y'all real quick because at your convenience, y'all, I just dropped the link in the chat. Bookmark that. You have to watch this interview in its entirety. And that small excerpt that I just played just gives you a window into what Jennifer Hough has been experiencing. And just for the audience's purposes, y'all, she details her rape by Kenneth Penny. But I'm not including that here because I find that very triggering and traumatizing. So you guys can go revisit that at your leisure. But we will be checking out more clips from her interview. But Ebony, let me just get your response from what we just saw from Jennifer and her attorney Tyrone Blackburn, that the reason that they're filing this lawsuit is but for the actions of Nicki Minaj and Kenneth Petty. Talk to me about your take about this.
So first of all, again, pleasure being here. Love your work. There is no reform. There is only flames, abyss. So just want to recognize that. Now, when I say that there's no reform, this kind of situation just continuously happens. And I also want to make it very clear that Jennifer Hough, you are not alone, and that I stand with you. There are survivors worldwide that stand with you, and we speak protection over you from head to toe. She looks like, to me, she is terrified. She is where a lot of survivors are when they are fed up with the doxing, with the harassment. She is at her last resort. This is the only option that she has before anything, God forbid, happens to her. And this is what happens when someone in power has a platform. It's a whole nother conversation, but this is another reason why I feel like we need to also abolish celebrity. It is absolutely disgusting and repugnant the way that many of them use their money, the way that many of them use their platforms to be homophobic, to be transphobic, to continuously spew these negative remarks about Black women in its entirety, to continue to treat victims like we are the earth scum. And it is something that I hope we absolutely snatch from under them, because I am consistently at a point where I don't see the restoring. I don't see the coming to terms. I don't see the redeemability of any of this. It, to me, is very clear that all of this needs to come to a halt. And what that means is there has to be a shift, and it's not going to be overnight. But I definitely believe that it means, as I stated at the beginning, burning it all down, because there is no reform, there is no change. Before I say anything about her, right, I would definitely love to give you a chance if you would like to respond, because I want to take a breath before I start talking about Miss Nicki Minaj.
That's fine, and I appreciate that, because I want us to help fill in some of the blanks of this story for those who may not be familiar with this, right? Because a lot of us is grown as hell out here. We can't we not refreshing Bossip.com every 5 minutes like a lot of people may not
Amen.
be familiar with this story. So let me just fill in some blanks real quick, and then we're going to hear another clip from Jennifer, and then I want to get more from you, Ebony. So y'all, this incident between Jennifer Hough and Kenneth Petty happened in 1994 when they both were in high school. Like I said, in the link that I just dropped in the chat, Jennifer details how basically Kenneth coerced her off of the street or intimidated. It even sounds like he fucking kidnapped her, because she claims that she thought he had a weapon to get her off the street into a place where she was raped. And she even claimed that she tried to attack him by throwing like a caustic agent on him after the assault was over. And she disclosed right away, like she left where the place she was raped, went to school and disclosed immediately. Police were there. The police were made aware of the rape before she even got a chance to tell her family, right? So the cops were involved from this off the jump. So let me just lay that out there for people to be like, why didn't she go to the police? Well, we just did a whole show last week about why rape survivors don't go to the police. But we're not going to entertain that as a reason to discredit people. So this woman immediately disclosed to police what happened. Initially, Kenneth Petty was charged with rape. He entered into a plea agreement where he pled guilty to first-degree attempted rape, and he served 4.5 years in jail, okay? But even after he was convicted, Jennifer Hough had to leave New York. She said she was dealing with intimidation, dealing with harassment, and it seems by her account, she's been dealing with varying levels of intimidation and harassment ever since this incident happened. But I want you guys to hear out of Jennifer's own mouth her feelings when she heard that Kenneth Petty, her attempted rapist, her convicted attempted rapist, was going to marry superstar rapper Nicki Minaj. Tunde, if we could listen to A4, please.
I was so afraid of being found out. I was so afraid of being known as the person he violated. And I didn't want that. It's Nicki Minaj. I didn't want that to reflect on my children.
Nicki addressed fans who brought up Kenneth's attempted rape conviction by replying to them on social media, saying he was 15, she was 16, in a relationship. What are your thoughts about that?
It was like reliving it again, because it was a lie. It wasn't true. We both were 16. We were never in a relationship. I just felt woman to woman I was wrong of her, because I don't know you and you don't know me to know that statement you put out to the world to be true. You have 150 something million followers on. They all believed it. It hurt coming from another woman. Just the girl thing,
He posted.
Just heartbreaking retelling there from Jennifer Hough about what that's only a portion of what she's experienced from the barbs from Nicki Minaj's fan base. And Ebony, like as unsurprised and yet heartbroken I remain when, for example, an unarmed Black person gets murdered by police. It's something that doesn't surprise me, but it still breaks my heart. The fact that this woman, and I don't know Jennifer's ethnicity, but we're going to call her a woman of color or a Black woman for all intents and purposes. But for women, and especially women of color and or Black women, to be discredited and maligned by other Black women, like, it's unsurprising, but it still remains heartbreaking. What do you have to say about what Jennifer just recounted regarding the way that Nicki Minaj has spoken about her rape on social media?
Yeah. So, I think there are so many layers to this, and my stomach is churning just thinking about this because I'm watching the patterns over the years of Nicki's behavior and the decline of her based on the actions and the people that she has aligned herself with, the men that she has aligned herself with. And it is absolutely disgusting to me when I see other Black women put themselves in the line of fire for men, put themselves in the line of fire for anyone, but in this case, for men. Because if a woman says that she has been sexually violated, there is absolutely nothing that you can say. There is no level of reasoning. There is absolutely nothing that you can interject because you simply was not there. You simply do not know. So when I see this case get more and more public interest as the day go on, I also see people who are very unaware of what this culture of rape is, how it has infested the movements of Black liberation, how it has infected Black families and still does to this day. And I see them coming in with unnecessary discourse and discourse that belongs in the trash, in the dumpster, in the sewage, right? And I always think to myself, what are the survivors going to do? How are they going to feel freedom? How are they going to feel whole again? Because that is what the concern is, right? We don't want the center to be Nicki Minaj, right? We don't want the center to be her horrific husband, right? We want the center to be Jennifer Hough, what she can do to feel safe, how she can feel safe, and how the public can contribute to that, if anything, right? Because it sounds like to me, she just wants to be left alone. So
to
when
follow
I
up
see
on that, I'm sorry, not to cut you off, Ebony, but to follow up on that, I feel terrible for Jennifer Hough because we do want her voice and experience to be centered, but she doesn't want that, right? She has been trying to live her life and mind her business, and Nicki Minaj and her husband keep dragging this woman back into this place that she experienced this trauma as a teenager. And but I wanted to circle back to something that you mentioned because you said that this is part of a continuing pattern of behavior for Nicki Minaj. For people who may not be familiar with her pattern when it comes to this kind of shit, can you fill us in?
Yeah. So yes, and really briefly, just on Jennifer Hough. Yeah, absolutely. Again, when survivors go public, it's literally last resort. It's something's going to happen to me if I don't come forward. People need to know that I am sane and in good spirits and that I am not going to do anything to inflict harm on myself because this is my last resort. So I want to make that very clear. There is absolutely nothing, quote unquote, that you all would say, oh, you're so brave for doing this. I didn't want to do it to be brave. I wanted to do it because I had to, right? So I just want to say that. And then to Nicki Minaj, oh my gosh. I mean, I have watched over the years the things in which she has aligned herself with, and it is absolutely repugnant. I'm going to take you all back to perhaps it was a year or two ago, could have been a little more, when so first, she paid for her brother Jelani Miraj's wedding, which was $30,000. It would be the next year or a few months later that we will find out, okay, that he was accused of raping an 11-year-old girl repeatedly. So I started to follow the case because this is my line of work. I started to follow the case because when I started to review the documents and the way in which Nicki Minaj had a high-profile lawyer come in to pretty much prove that this little girl was hot in the ass, I had to remind myself in that moment that she is the type of woman that we need to stay away from. because you are the misogyny that we speak of. You align yourself with these men. An 11-year-old girl, you hire an attorney to sit up here and talk about this 11-year-old girl and make her out to be this villain who threw herself at your brother who was in his fucking 30s. So when I saw that, I was taken aback. I was mortified. I was disgusted because I think about the Barbs. A lot of the people that like her like that, right? People who call themselves a Barb are in that generation. I don't know too many grown women that call themselves Barbs, right? But that's just me. That doesn't mean they don't. I just know that there are a lot of young people, right? And I'm not saying that to be ageist. What I'm saying is that you have a lot of young people looking up to you, a lot of young girls looking up to you. So what message do you send when you are absolutely okay allowing your grown ass brother to get off the hook for raping a child repeatedly? So what ended up happening with that is he ended up getting 25 years because he was guilty. He was absolutely guilty. Her brother got 25 years for that. Yes, he did. He lost 25 years.
From our comments really quick, thank you, King Kamashiro, for your support. King Kamashiro says, pick meism is a hell of a drug. All that disgust placed on the victim while living under the same roof as the weak and evil motherfucker who did it, surreal. Thank you so much, King Kamashiro, for your comment. And Ebony, I want us to go back because we are going to talk about the Barbs, right? And I thank you for bringing up that point. And I don't think what you said was ageist at all, honey, because, you know, I mean, I'm a little old for Nicki Minaj. I mean, that's just my opinion, but I'm very aware of who she is. I'm very aware of her reach. I'm very aware of her popularity and how much how enthusiastic the Barbs can be, if not outright toxic and poisonous, really, when they take their ire and aim at people and target people online. I want us to scoop back to Jennifer's interview again, and you know, The Real is not a show that I watch. I'm gonna keep it a buck with that, but at the same time, I think Garcelle Bouvet and old girl from 3LW, Adrian, thank you. Somebody in the chat told me her name was Adrian because I'm like, oh yeah,
Adrian
3LW.
Oh yes. Wait, she got married to the gospel man. Yes.
Right, 3LW. That's how I know old girl. But I want us to take a look at another clip from what Jennifer had to say, because again, she said a lot, and I really encourage you guys to go back and look at this interview. But this is a question that they were asked in regards to what they expect to get out of this lawsuit. Because again, back in August, Jennifer Hough filed a suit alleging harassment against Nicki Minaj and her husband, Kenneth Petty, who is Jennifer Hough's convicted attempted rapist. So Tunde, can we please look at A5, please?
What are you guys wanting to come from this lawsuit?
To let them know that they were wrong and you can't do this to people. You shouldn't do this to people. He did something a long time ago, and he had consequences that he was supposed to stick with. What they did to me and my family wasn't okay. It wasn't right, and it doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter what your status is. You can't intimidate people to make things go better for you, and that's what they did. And I want my daughters to know that as they grow, as they experience life, as they come in contact with friends, family, strangers, whatever, that they'll have the strength to know that they have a voice and they should use it, and don't ever let anybody try to silence them.
What do you want to say to people who don't believe you?
They have the right to their opinions. They have the right to their thoughts, but you don't get to attack people because you don't believe, and you don't get to paint a picture of this narrative that they put out. I'm a white girl who falsely accused a black boy. You don't get to do that. It doesn't matter what race you are. You should be able to speak up and not have people intimidate you.
That
Speaking
is the
of,
other part.
go ahead, Ebony, go ahead.
No, just was gonna say that was the other piece. In 2019, Nicki Minaj's Queen radio show, she mentioned on the radio show that this was a lie. She didn't mention her name, but she did say that he was not charged and he did not do anything. And right is right, I guess. So that comment is the comment heard around the world. If you research that specific comment and type in Black Twitter, you will see them going off on her and just kind of digging that up, because she made it seem like she was a white woman, because she knows the racial implications of Black men being accused and wrongly accused of sexually assaulting white women. So, I mean, damn, is Nicki Minaj a disgusting piece of shit for that, right? God damn.
Absolutely. Tunde, pop up A6 for me, please. So Jennifer Hough gave this interview to The Real this week, y'all. And of course, as you can imagine, immediately she was flooded with harassing messages, threatening her, threatening to dox her. I believe that is what one portion of what the TMZ article did report, is that, yeah, her personal information, her address, phone number, have been published already. People have been DMing her like the worst kind of shit, death threats. I hope you die, you fucking liar. Like, all you want is money. Can we look at that A6 for me, Tunde? Okay. So yeah, the TMZ article, if you guys want to check it out, because again, she has already experienced a lot of harassment already. And Ebony, it shout out to Celeste in the chat, because Celeste was like, Nicki Minaj is 38. Yes, honey, she is a extra grown ass woman out here, way too grown to be pulling this damaging bullshit, Ebony, because truly, Jennifer Hough's life, her livelihood, her ability to live freely just as a person. I mean, this sends a chilling effect really to anyone who is a survivor of rape, be them man, woman, or non-binary, that, maybe it's not worth it to come forward and to prosecute your rapist, or to even make an allegation or to out your rapist. What kind of message is Nicki Minaj sending, not only to survivors of rape, but like you said, her own fan base, like, about what is acceptable here, and how is she basically enabling a whole fucking nation of rape culturist enablers?
Y'all think that these capitalists give a shit about you, and that's the gag. And we got a long way to go anyway, obviously, because I have I don't think billionaires should exist. That's another topic for another day, but not exist as in not have life, but in the sense that no one should be able to reach billionaire status, because we have all these things in the world that are so fucked up. People without homes. We have survivors who do not have resources. We have schools that are underfunded, and fucking water in Black community that's still infected and making people sick. So that's a whole nother conversation. But what does it say when you have all of this wealth, and what you could do is get education? You could hire a goddamn publicist too. You could hire a publicist too. You could seek out the help. But again, you have to do that if you want to do that, not to be performative. That's just a big thing that I've been seeing repetitively, and definitely in Baltimore. Motherfuckers do shit they ain't got no business doing. Be rapists, be rape apologists. And then they go make a public apology on social media, delete the shit because they don't want to lose followers and for people to talk shit under the post, or they disable the comments. And then the next thing you know, she posts a goddamn picture the next day with a fucking unicorn hairstyle like it's 2003. You know, and now everybody's supposed to be excited. Oh, look at this new hairstyle she got stuck up on her goddamn head. You know, and I'm just like, wow. So she goes live, and now we're talking about Nicki Minaj's hair.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's the culture of celebrity, and it's toxic as hell. You know what I mean? Like, listen, man. You gonna stand who you gonna stand, okay? But you know what? Try not to stand overtly trash people. You know what I'm saying? Like, try not to stand people who would call you all kinds of sluts and whores should you disclose the fact that you had been raped or sexually assaulted.
Telling you.
Nicki Minaj is abhorrent at this, and shame on the Barbs, shame on all her fans for harassing this woman, a rape survivor, a woman who was, you know, and again, I'm not trying to use this as a metric of her credibility, but that's how a lot of people use it, who had her day in court, and her assailant was found guilty. Happens to be Nicki Minaj's current husband. The last clip I want us to take a look at is going to be A3 Tunde, guys. And this is the part of the interview in which Jennifer really details some of the harassment that she's experiencing. Now, gang, put yourself in her shoes, right? This is an incident that happened when she was 16 years old. She's now a very grown-ass woman in her 40s. She's a mother, you know what I mean? She's living her life. And to have some trauma that she experienced as a teenager to keep coming back in her face and in the ways that Nicki Minaj used her power, her influence, and her money to intimidate this woman should incense you. It should absolutely piss you off. Big Teal says maybe we should stop standing, period. Big Teal. I think that's a good direction to go in.
Stand culture gotta go, Big Teal, period. Stand culture's gotta go.
Have to go because too many of these motherfuckers is Terizash. But y'all listen out of Jennifer Hough's own mouth, her own words about the ways that Nicki Minaj, Kenneth Petty, and their team intimidated her and harassed her. Tunde A3, please.
With them sending people to negotiate numbers as far as money is concerned with family members. And Nicki is the one who personally reached out to me. She's, you know, in regards to helping them in this situation. And then the threats that I received because I kept saying no to every offer, to every suggestion. The last incident was when one of their associates put $20,000 on my lap, and I still kept saying no. The last message I received was that I should have taken the money because they're going to use that money to put on my head. And then I just cut off everything, changed my numbers. I moved multiple times, relocated away from my children because I didn't want anything to come back and affect them. So I've kind of been in fear for the last year.
This associate that she's referring to, this is the same guy who recently posted an Instagram video threatening to either kill or to do bodily harm to Jennifer. And this post came literally 6 days after Kenneth Petty accepted a plea deal here in California for failing to register as a sex offender. This is the same guy that showed up at Jennifer's house with the $20,000 and put it on her lap with a pre-written recantment statement that he tried to force her to sign on behalf of Nicki Minaj and Kenneth Petty. This is the same associate that sent Jennifer a text message from Kenneth Petty with Nicki Minaj's phone number, informing her that this is the number that you will receive a call from. And that number is the one that called her.
Ebony, I mean, for one, I can only imagine the terror that Jennifer Hough must have experienced when some fucking goon comes to your house and knock on your door talking about take this money and sign this statement, and then you say no, and then motherfuckers get on social media and threaten your life. A lot of people really don't seem to understand that survivors don't only face condemnation and scrutiny and perhaps feelings of shame for coming forward, their livelihoods can be threatened. Their actual lives can be threatened depending on whom they are making these accusations against. Tell me your thoughts about Nicki Minaj, her husband, and their team's tactics in order to solicit a recantation from Jennifer Hough.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is how it goes, this cycle of threatening survivors. And once again, there are numerous ways in which someone who is trying to get a survivor to retract their story, they can also use other people as a scapegoat. They can also pretend that they do not have any idea what's going on when they know the status of the situation, when they understand exactly what's going on. They align themselves with certain principles to be able to extract information, whereas they may say something because they want for someone to, quote unquote, act unhinged. And what they will do is use that in their favor. So that's something that I always notice when I'm online engaging with people who are rape apologists, that they're trying to trigger me in some type of way. They're trying to make me seem like I do not know what's going on because they want me to appear irate and they want me to appear just completely discombobulated. And I have to also remember something that brilliant intern Brendan said about just the way in which you engage with these type of people, and just the fact that, you know, it may appear to them that I'm unhinged because they are used to seeing us not react to the type of abuse and the type of silencing that we experience, but it's absolutely not unhinged. It is what should happen, but it has not been happening. And let me also redirect, because Nicki Minaj, just before this situation happened where Jennifer Hough was able to go on The Real, let me remind people that when that reporter was trying to find out information, Nicki Minaj posted the address and number of the reporter. So what that showed me is that, okay, so she likes to dox. Thank you very much for showing me that this is the type of behavior that you exude. Because if that's the type of behavior that you exude, you will go at no length to do the same to others or even worse. So in no way, shape, or form is Nicki innocent, because she's very much complicit in the situation. She has on numerous occasions made up story. I mean, just literally pulled it out of her ass and said anything. But these types of things happen. You have to know that people will do anything to silence you. And this is why survivors remain silent. And Audre Lorde, praise the Lord, will say, your silence will not protect you. And in this case, we are watching that before our eyes, because Jennifer Hough knows that her silence will no longer protect her. But why can't she just get that peace of mind? Why does she have to go on television, right? Because she fears for her life. So in this situation, I want for a lot of people to do a lot of research around ways in which you can be more supportive to survivors. And find out ways that you can do things to protect survivors. And I think that this is going to be an ongoing conversation, because like I said before, like when it comes to all of these restorative practices, when it comes to holding someone accountable, you know, you have to assume that there's something to restore. And like I said earlier, there's nothing to restore, because a lot of this shit just has to go. But you also have to find out, like, who wants to be held accountable, and what does that actually look like? And what does it look like for survivors? People want to hold people accountable, but do survivors want the situation to have the same outcome that you, as a person who is watching this situation, would want? And that's a question that we have to continue to ask ourselves. What does the survivor want? And in this case, she wants to be left alone.
She wants to be left the fuck alone.
Her peace. She wants her peace of mind. And I would just hope that as many times as we've seen this thing play out, that we do come to this understanding that it is very important to center survivors, and that we do not get to pick and choose with Black women that we like to protect for the sake of standing, for the sake of someone being our fave. But people just love a good shook and jive dance move. That to them cannot be replaced because their favorite dance star, their favorite pop star, their favorite comedian is a rapist, is a violent
and that
misogynist.
needs to be a boundary, y'all. And listen, I
No
know that
vibes.
Exactly. I mean, in our society and in our culture, we are still coming to grips with believing women, right? Because I mean, Ebony, I'm older than you. I'm 43. I'm the same age as Jennifer Hough, right? And I can completely understand what kind of pressure she experienced from her community and those who were acquainted and who knew Kenneth Petty at the time of her assault in the 90s, right? So we are only really just kind of getting to a space where women can come out and speak their minds. But again, it's not without consequence, as Jennifer's story is showing us. But I want us to get into your work, Ebony, and the work you've been doing around exposing abusers and supporting survivors. But before we go there, because I wanted to put that out there because I don't want us to go away without talking about what you do at Say Her Name. However, when it comes to women, and again, I'm talking mostly like hetero situations here, guys. I'm not trying to exclude other kinds of relationships. So when it comes to heterosexual men and women, right? And you have a woman like Nicki Minaj who is in love with this man very clearly. She is moving heaven and earth to try to clear Kenneth Petty's name. It must be loved. Like, I don't know what the fuck it must be going on. But there's a lot of women out here who disbelieve survivors of rape, who believe men who have been accused multiple times. And even if they've never been convicted, the accusations are there and they come from more than one person. What is it that we as a community need to do in order to discredit those who are predators, who are sexual predators, and those who enable these predators? Because, I mean, Kenneth Petty, he went to jail. He did his time. Now he appears to show no remorse. Does not seem to have ever apologized to Jennifer Hough. In fact, he denies any wrongdoing in connection to this case. So fuck him, right? He's unrepentant. But Nicki Minaj is right here. Nicki Minaj is right here supporting his unrepentant, convicted rapist ass. So how do we as a community hold those who are known abusers, either who have been through the system or not been through the system, but it's known that these people are abusers? What do we do to hold them accountable amongst ourselves?
Yeah. So 2 things. The first thing I'm going to say is you said a very interesting word. You said, what can we do as a community? And emphasis on the word community, because if there was a community, there's no way this would be happening. And the sad truth about this is that we are not a community. We are people that live in an area together. We're people who have commonalities, but we're not a community. We're not communing. We're not coming to each other to hold each other accountable on day-to-day small shit. You tell me something about my shit stinking and I go off on you and make you look like the goddamn spawn of Satan because I don't want to clean my act up, right? So, you know, we have to get into a paradigm shift, but I do have a very simple request. When you see shit like this starting to happen with Black men, with high profile Black men who are in the limelight and they're being accused of assault, of rape, of harassment, the very important thing that you can do is to close your fucking mouth, because that is what you should do in that situation. Listen and stop. Because a lot of people like to talk before the information starts to expose itself. You know, because it's very easy for y'all to say, oh, we already know George Floyd, that officer's guilty. You're right, he's guilty. So why do we need evidence when it comes to Black women? Because we don't want a brother to go down? Because the brother's work is more important than the livelihood of a Black woman, than the sanity, than the full coming to herself? That's so very important for us to think about and consider. the way in which we try to turn this whole situation into something that works in our favor. I don't want to lose my favorite network dad on TV. I don't want to lose hey. I want to watch Family. I want to watch Bill Cosby, and I want to watch my good friend Vanessa, and I want to watch this show. This is history. This is legacy. He donated all this money to all these colleges, you know, and it's very much the case that we like to erase the things that people do because of the laughs they gave us or the time they made us smile. But I do not have unwavering loyalty. I don't. So, you know, as someone who was already partnered, if there were potential partners, right? I'm so sorry to let you know that I am not loyal to the soil, because the minute you do something to jeopardize my sanity, to jeopardize my safety, I am jumping ship. You know, best friend, good girlfriend, I have family members who've abused me. So we have this idea that we have to keep this loyalty. And this is, and also too, is another thing with Nicki Minaj is the whole street cred shit that she does, that whole bullshit. I'm from the hood, I'm from the street, I'm from New York. That all that bullshit that she does about, yeah, I'm gonna put some money on your head. Yeah, use it for when it's really important. Because right now, you don't put money on somebody's head for some shit that they did. This is something that I am seeing too, this whole, oh yeah, you're supposed to keep your mouth shut. This is street cred, this is by the books. And I'm seeing that become like a repetitive theme. It is very important for people to shut their mouths and believe survivors. Just because T.I. and his wife was not convicted doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Hey, and that whole situation's not even finished either, and that's something I probably will bring you back to talk about as well, because I am extremely perturbed about the accusations around T.I. and Tiny and allegedly drugging women to rape them, numerous women, in lots of different places. But Ebony, child, we have run up on the hour, but I want you to talk about your work around Say Her Name and the work that you've been doing online around exposing known community abusers. And when I say known, I mean that for one, we're talking specifically in Baltimore and I, you know, in the Baltimore area, you know, artists, community activists, people who have reputations in the city for doing work, but have other reputations in the city among women for being abusive, either physically or sexually, and why it's important to call people out. Because on the flip side, people be like, well, you just can't be calling people rapists and abusers. You ain't got no evidence. That's defamatory. You know, that's slander. You can't be doing that. But tell me why it is important to do that, especially when you have the same names being accused by multiple people.
Multiple people. Yeah, I mean, so with Say Her Name Coalition, my good comrade and friend Brittany Oliver and I have been both doing this work for a decade plus in numerous arenas around bodily autonomy. And let me just say, when Oluwatoyin Salu passed, she was brutally murdered by a Black man who she trusted after being put out of her house because her own brother assaulted her.
This is the young woman activist down in Florida who was murdered.
Oluwatoyin Salu.
Yeah, she was like 19, super young, very young woman, and very about Black people. But I just wanted to let everybody know who you were talking about. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I appreciate that. And let me just say, was so mortified and just deeply, deeply saddened to hear about it, because she called out her abuser and she was murdered shortly after, you know. And the same thing happened to Malaysia Booker, who was a trans woman who was in, I think, a fender bender, and she got out the car and a hood of men jumped on her. I mean, beat her. And she was alive to talk about it. A week later, she was murdered, you know? So let me just say Her Name Coalition work is continuing the work of our foremamas. You know, when I think about Asada Shakur, when I think about Sonia Sanchez, absolutely when I think about Bell Hooks and I think about the work, the foundation that they have laid and the work that they are continuing, it's very important for this to continue in numerous ways. So survivor care packages, raising money to donate to survivors, to donate to resources for therapy, resources for healing, whether it's boosting mutual aids, whether it's doing free food drives, free clothing drives, distribution to the community. Those are all the ways in which Say Her Name has been able to support Black women and femmes in Baltimore. Currently reaching out to numerous partners to make our forces stronger. Baltimore Safe Haven is another phenomenal trans organization that is doing some incredible work right here in Baltimore. It's important that the work of Say Her Name Coalition just continues to cross those bridges and meet with other organizations who have been doing this work and who have done this work longer. And I also lift up Black Women Rising and the founding members of that collective, which myself, Lenora Knows, Botima, Kira Lene, Imelda Dekatu founded some years ago. And another honorary member, Brittany, who passed in Baltimore from an overdose, a trans Black woman. So just honoring all the different lineages and the ways in which I've been doing this work and the ways in which I have had so many amazing elders and mentors and phenomenal guidance along the way. So that's what Say Her Name Coalition is about. And you can donate to Say Her Name Coalition. We have all types of ways you can get involved. We have resources. You can find more about that at sayhernamecoalition.com. You can also go to @sayhernamecoalition on Instagram, and you can learn about what we do and how to get involved. And what I'll say about exposing abusers, you know, again, I do nothing without the survivors who reached out to me to confide in me and to let me know that they in some way, shape, or form need assistance. I do not think that I have all the answers in any way. I just use my voice to be able to amplify what they are already saying. And that is what's really important for me. So even when calling out abusers that survivors are very okay with the public knowing they are abusers. I do not do anything if I do not have their permission. I do not do anything if I'm not in talks with them. I'm in community. If I'm calling someone an abuser, it's because I know at least 3 to 5 people who have confided in me about that person abusing. I want to make that very clear. And even if I didn't know 3 to 5 people, one person is enough. And I believe Black women, I believe survivors, period. So when I see these types of things happening and when I see these people in power, moving about, slithering about through the scene in Baltimore, you know, posting statements online, posting letters of accountability. I see these people out here thinking that they running shit when they really running into a hole, because actually they think what they're doing is uplifting them for the community, but they're performative. They don't actually care about the shit that goes on. They don't care about Black women. They only care about themselves. So I want to make it very clear that I am about protecting Black women and femmes. I support Black women. I support survivors. And there is absolutely nothing going to stop me. You know, and I always have this thing that if you try to harm me, you better make sure I don't ever come back. And even if my life is taken, that will never kill me either, because I believe that my spirit will live on and the spirits of other Black women around me will carry this lineage on as well. And I think that it's very important to name that people love to try to tell you what you should abandon and the ways in which you should operate when approaching this. But there is no angle to this. I'm not trying to be quiet about it. I'm not trying to sneak it in. And that's no shade to folks who like to be quiet and who like to sit on the sideline and look, and who have no opinion and who don't want to be public. But my life is about toning it up. I'm not trying to tone it down. I'm trying to tone it up. I'm trying to disrupt. I'm trying to destroy. I'm trying to dismantle. I would love the smoke.
Yes, Ebony said that she is a smokstress. Bring her all the smoke because she is with it and she's not afraid of it. And listen, at the bottom of this, everybody, listen, we cannot talk about Black liberation if we enable people who are preying and harming and victimizing other of us who trying to be free. You know what I'm saying? I can't be free if I'm being raped.
Come on, Kim.
And I can't be free if I'm being raped and the community don't believe me. I can't be free if I'm being raped and someone else is being raped and we know who the rapist is and everyone's like, oh, but he's such a good guy. Like, look at him. He does such good work in the community.
Look at his haircut.
Right.
Look at his haircut. Look at him.
Right.
He got that shit for $19.99 anyway. I should have known he was fake.
Doc, we will never be free protecting rapists. Black people and non-black people. Write that down. Ebony, I'm going to let you go, honey, and I certainly appreciate you making some time with me, especially last minute. Yes. Your insight is so valuable here. We already getting requests in the chat like, when you gonna have Ebony back? Jean wants Ebony back. Toby Swole said Ebony need to come back. So thank you so much for sharing your perspective and for the work that you're doing. The work that you're doing is so important, Ebony. It is important to expose abusers, especially those who prey. Even like you said, even one victim is one victim too many. But those people who are out here preying on multiple people, traumatizing entire families, basically. You know what I mean? That trauma carries on. It circles out. So anyway, but I want to thank you so much for the work that you do, and thank you so much for joining us today on Burn It Down with Kim Brown, guys. Amorous Ebony, y'all. Amorous_Ebony. Follow her on social media. Hashtag Say Her Name. The Say Her Name Coalition is also on Instagram. Please go on IG and follow them. Follow Ebony's work because she's doing amazing things. Tunde, what's your time looking like, G? You got 15-ish minutes? Let me ask y'all in the chat. Y'all want me to dance on AOC's head real quick or what? We got time to tap dance on Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, or wait, tell me, Tunde, because I can save it till Tuesday. It's all good. Okay. So guys, first of all, thank you all so much for hanging out. We got 82 strong here with us. I see we got 81 thumbs up. That is wonderful. Do me a favor, if you have not already subscribed to Burn It Down with Kim Brown. Guys, I think we're only like 3 short of 2,200 subscribers. So please give us a subscription if you don't mind. And if you want to support what we're doing here on Burn It Down with Kim Brown, we're still offering 15% off annual memberships at patreon.com/BIDWKB. We've had several people very smartly take advantage of our $2 tiers at the annual membership level and 15% off. That comes out to $20.40. That's all it takes to support us for an entire year on Patreon. And we certainly welcome, again, y'all, we ain't greedy. Every dollar, every cent that we receive from support from you guys to help us keep us on the air, we appreciate it. And somebody just ran us $40. And of course, it was Big Money Bags Latif, because it's Friday. Latif just got paid. Latif said it's a fire show today, Kim. Ebony, you are dope. And it's imperative that we're able to expose the madness and put a face and name beside the bullshit. Yeah, man, Nicki Minaj is on some ginormous bullshit. And if you have any barbs in your life, in your circle, please make them hip to Nicki Minaj in her fucking bullshit. But speaking of some fucking bullshit, guys, the U.S. Congress back in session and typically back on their bullshit because Congress I largely view as an ineffective body, right? A very ineffective legislative body, unless of course you're the Pentagon, and then Congress works very well because they will be sending hundreds of billions of dollars your way. No questions asked, no audit needed, doesn't matter. And a vote this week was very much along those lines. So if you had not heard, the United States, for reasons I suppose related to Zionism, continues to support the military defense of Israel, which is a very wealthy nation, a nuclear armed nation, even though they're not supposed to be, but they got nukes over there in Israel. And for reasons I don't fucking understand. I mean, I do, but not that I can articulate. The United States continues to send Israel billions of dollars every year. And this year, well, this week was a vote. If you could pop up B1 for me, Tunde, at your convenience. This was a vote this week that the House took about whether or not to authorize $1 billion for Israeli defense to support their Iron Dome missile defense shield. The dome that they use to shoot down rockets that come over from Gaza, right? And because, mind you, by the way, Israel be dropping whole ass, ginormous ass bombs on Gaza, in the West Bank, on Palestine, dropping shit on mosques, etc. But look no further. If you need a reason for Republicans and Democrats to come together, they will always agree to fund the police to the hilt. They will always agree, for the most part, to fund the military to the hilt. And they will always agree to fund Israel, again, a wealthy nuclear armed nation, because Israel has a right to defend itself. Well, I don't understand why Israel can't defend itself with its own fucking money. Okay? Why they sending Israel $1 billion while the power grid in Texas is all fucked up, and while they're trying to hopefully preserve the sequoia trees in Joshua National Forest in California for wildfire. I mean, there's better ways, I think, that $1 billion American dollars could be spent here in America, or shit, even send $1 billion to a poor country. Don't send it to a fucking rich ass country like Israel. I digress. But let me give you guys a quick example of how Republicans and Democrats tend to come together on this. Well, let me start with the Democrats, actually. And I'm just about to play this clip kind of just to make y'all mad, because because again, I skimmed through literally over 2 hours of the House morning session from yesterday. And not only was it boring as fuck, but it was infuriating as fuck. But anyway, here's Nancy Pelosi, and she's going to be followed up by, I believe, a Democratic representative from Connecticut. She's a black woman. I can't recall her name off the top. But Tunde, if you could cue up, I suppose that would be B2 for me, please. Just to let y'all know where the Democrats as a whole. This is a very accurate slice of what the Democratic tenor was on the House floor yesterday surrounding this vote for the Israeli Iron Dome missile defense system. Tunde, let's take a look at that, please.
Iron Dome is a purely defensive system designed to safeguard all civilians living in Israel. The system was co-developed by the United States and Israel and has saved thousands of lives. Additional financial support for Iron Dome was part of the Memorandum of Understanding negotiated by President Obama in 2016. The funding being appropriated today simply continues and strengthens this support. Passage of this bill reflects the great unity in Congress on a bipartisan and bicameral basis for Israel's security. Assistance to Israel is vital because Israel's security is an imperative for America's security.
I am a Democrat, and I remain firm in my commitment and appreciation for Israel's legitimate right to self-defense. And I remind everyone again that the motion to commit just sends the bill back to committee. According to the Memorandum of Understanding between Israel and the United States reached in 2016, for fiscal years 2019 through 2028, the United States is expected to provide $500 million every year for missile defense. That has not changed. Funding for the Iron Dome was never in jeopardy.
Just to let y'all know where the Democrats is coming from, baby. The funding for the Iron Dome was never in jeopardy, despite I guess a procedural measure taken by the squad who tried to separate this funding for the Iron Dome out of the continuing resolution bill to keep the federal government open, right? So this is what they did. This is HR 5323, okay? And the funding for the Israeli Iron Dome passed the House by a vote of 420 to 8. I thought it was 420 to 9, but this Times of Israel package, or rather article, says 420 to 8. 8 Democrats, y'all. Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, Cori Bush, Andre Carson. I'm impressed. Okay, Andre Carson. Maria Newman of Illinois, Jesus Garcia of Illinois, and Raul Grijalva of Arizona. And 1 Republican, Representative Tom Massey of Kentucky, all voted no. Look at that, Molly. Look at Kentucky. Look at Tom Massey taking a principled stand against this. Now, I'm sure he voted no for some bullshit. Now, AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York, and Hank Johnson of Georgia are the only lawmakers to vote present. And y'all, now, you want to talk about a bitch move. How else can I categorize what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez did as just a bitch move? Now, she is all free Palestine in the streets, and she gets to the House and vote present, and then had the nerve to cry about it. Hold on, Tunde. Let's before we get into deeper, since I'm on AOC, I think it's the very last clip on the doc. Could you pull up that clip of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez crying or fake crying? Some of the right-wing coverage of this, they call it performative, and I don't know if I disagree with that, but saying she was dropping them crocodile tears. It's like, AOC, just say you want to run for the Senate in a couple years. Just say you need all that Jewish lobby and Jewish money behind you up in New York in order to even consider being a competitive candidate for New York Senate, right? AOC, unfortunately, is not unlike a lot of other progressives. And I know she's not black, but this voting behavior is very reminiscent of Congressional Black Caucus behavior. When you get in there, before you on a campaign trail, you running, you like, yeah, defund the police, get the militarization out of the police department, and you go into the House and immediately start voting for funding the police and militarizing local law enforcement. She just got co-opted, man. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tragically is believing her own hype and has higher political ambitions, and therefore she's already selling out, I would imagine, whom she seems as most expendable, and in this case it would be the Palestinians. Did you pop that up for me, Tunde? Yeah. Y'all see her? Okay, she's in the lower left-hand corner. I don't know what in the world she's wearing, but I mean, okay, whatever. Yes, and she's getting consoled and patted on the back and boo-hoo, hoo-hoo-hoo. But, so I just listed off to y'all the lawmakers who voted against, right? 8 Democrats and 1 Republican voted against the $1 billion funding for the Israeli Iron Dome. But one person stood up and called a thing a thing. And it was extremely brave for her to do this. And I'm talking about none other than Detroit's own Rashida Tlaib. What's up, Dearborn Heights? What's up, Detroit? What's up, 313? The 313 ain't with the shits. Y'all know Detroit don't play that shit. Don't they? Cue up that Rashida Tlaib clip, man, because y'all, Rashida Tlaib. Let me tell y'all how I know Rashida Tlaib got in there and spoke truth, because the white men's heads exploded like after she finished talking. And I'm going to show you the clips of the white man's heads going to explode. But that's how you know that black woman / woman of color / Arab woman / Palestinian woman got up there and dropped nothing but facts. Tunde, let's hear from Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib.
I rise in opposition to this supplemental. I will not support an effort to enable and support war crimes, human rights abuses, and violence. We cannot be talking only about Israelis' need for safety at a time when Palestinians are living under a violent apartheid system and are dying from what Human Rights Watch has said are war crimes. We should also be talking about Palestinian need for security from Israeli attacks. We must be consistent in our commitment to human life, period. Everyone deserves to be safe there. The bill claims to be, quote, a replenishment for weapons apartheid Israel used in a crisis it manufactured when it attacked worshipers at one of the most holy safe there. We should need for safety at a time when supplemental. I will not support life, period. Everyone deserves to be safe there. The bill claims to be, quote, a replenishment for weapons apartheid Israel used in a crisis it manufactured when it attacked worshipers at one of the most holiest Islamic locations, the Al-Aqsa Mosque, committing, again, numerous war crimes. And yet, a $1 billion in American tax dollars that my colleagues want to give represents, to me, an absurd and unjustifiable 140 times increase to U.S. funding for the Iron Dome. I firmly believe our country must oppose selling weapons to anyone, anywhere, without human rights law compliance. The Israeli government is an apartheid regime. Not my words, the words of Human Rights Watch and Israel's own Human Rights Watch organization, B'Tselem. I urge my colleagues, please stand with me in supporting human rights for all. I yield.
Damn! Damn! Do you know how much courage and gumption it took for Rashida Tlaib to go in there and say that exact thing regarding that exact vote, y'all? She called Israel exactly what it is, an apartheid state. She called out the massive human rights violations that have been cited from lots of human rights organizations across the country, man. And what do y'all think the response was from Republicans and Democrats in Congress once Rashida Tlaib got up there and dropped knowledge? I already told y'all, the heads exploded. The heads exploded real quick. Jonathan Guerrero, thank you so much for your support, Jonathan. Jonathan says, the reason why evangelicals support Israel is because they want to usher in the apocalypse when they rebuild the Temple of Solomon over the mosque. Hey, man. That is probably what is going on behind this, and I don't support that. Like, you know, if the evangelical Christians think that Jesus is on the way, damn it, well, we don't need to hurry Jesus up. Or maybe we do. I don't know. But not in the way that they're going about this in order to basically slaughter Palestinians to no end, to get their hands on all of Gaza and the West Bank, which is absolutely happening. But guys, as promised, white man's heads going to explode. Tunde, if we could please see that clip.
Mr. Speaker, the truth has finally come out on the floor of the House of the United States of America. I heard some of my Democratic colleagues stand with me, with Israel, with our ally, to fight terrorism with a defensive weapon system. And what did we just hear? We heard the Democratic Party speak out. We heard right now from my colleague across the aisle with a shocking statement. She opposes this because they have a vocal minority in the majority party that is anti-Israel, that is anti-Semitic, and as Americans, we can never stand for that. I grew up with Holocaust survivors. I grew up with children of Holocaust survivors. Israel has been attacked and attacked and attacked since its inception. As Americans, I beseech you, I reach out to the majority and I say, condemn what we just heard on the floor. Condemn terrorism. This is a defensive weapon system. Stop playing your procedural games. I hear commit, recommit. It was a motion to recommit. You just saw something on this floor I thought I would never see. Not only as a member of this House, but as an American. Let us stand with Israel. Let's combat anti-Semitism wherever it is in the world, whether it's in the United States, whether it's from terrorism. I am shocked, Mr. Speaker, with what I just heard. I ask the majority to condemn the comments that were just made by their member.
I cannot allow one of my colleagues to stand on the floor of the House of Representatives and label the Jewish democratic state of Israel an apartheid state. I reject it. Today, this caucus, this body, the House of Representatives will overwhelmingly stand with our ally, the state of Israel, in replenishing this defensive system. If you believe in human rights, if you believe in saving lives, Israeli lives and Palestinian lives, I say to my colleague who just besmirched our ally, then you will support this legislation. May I have 15 more seconds?
You're the gentleman 15 seconds. You're the gentleman 30 seconds.
Is recognized for an additional 30 seconds?
Fuck is 30 seconds.
Mr. Speaker, we can have an opportunity to debate
Yeah, fuck his 30 seconds, yo. We ain't giving that motherfucker no more 30 seconds. Listen, man. This is how you know that Rashida Tlaib stood on the floor of the House and spit nothing but truth. Because, number one, everything that she mentioned had everything to do with the state of Israel and the state of Israel, their policies and the way that they treat the Palestinian people inhumanely, how they illegally come over and usurp Palestinian land for settlers, right? She didn't say shit about Jewish. She said Israel as a state. These are their policies, and these are how their policies form an apartheid state with Palestine, right? Or exclude or alienate Palestinians from the region, right? And by denying them rights and bombing them and all kinds of nefarious, grotesque, genocidal shit. And it's crazy to me to see Republican and Democrat alike spin this into anti-Semitism somehow, right? What I'm very proud of is that here in the 21st century of the United States, I believe, now correct me if I'm wrong, my Jewish brethren and sistren, but I think most American Jews are like, fuck how Israel treats Palestine, right? I think that there's enough American Jews who don't like that shit, okay? And who are vehemently against that shit. Let me put Bernard Sanders up there as one of those Jewish Americans who are like, this is some bullshit the way y'all treat Palestine. Bernie is very vocal in his support for Palestine, and it is so disingenuous of Republicans and Democrats alike to smear Rashida Tlaib as being anti-Semitic when she, of all people, has probably more firsthand knowledge about how Israel engages in genocide and apartheid because she herself is Palestinian and she still has family in Gaza, right? So she know what time it is more than the rest of them clowns. And trust me, I watched a lot of that fucking House shit, that vote, right? And all the motherfuckers, Republican and Democrat, all stood up and said, I've been to Israel and I've seen how important it is for the Iron Dome to remain in place. Well, have you walked your ass over to Palestine? Impress me and tell me you've been to Palestine and observed those conditions and the way that those people are forced to live under Israeli occupation. Impress me and tell me that you've at least gone over to see the other side, to see what people are talking about. And you know what? This is a perfect time to reinforce fuck Barack Hussein Obama for agreeing to that memorandum of understanding that the United States is going to supply at minimum $500 million annually for the next 10 years. I believe the year is 2028 when the U.S. will not be giving Israel $500 million for their missile defense. Explain to me why the fuck Israel, a rich ass country, needs aid from the United States while the United States infrastructure is literally crumbling around us. Make it make fucking sense, y'all. And unfortunately, this is irregardless of who is in the White House. It don't matter if it's Biden, Trump, Obama, Bush. This would be going the same way. And that is why Rashida Tlaib is so courageous to call a thing. She's being smeared as an anti-Semite, which she absolutely is not. It is not anti-Semitic to criticize Israeli state policies because Israeli state policies are fucked up for people who are non-white Israelis, right? Because there's plenty of African Jews in Israel getting treated like shit right now because Israel is racist as fuck. Period, point blank. You could quote me on that shit, okay? That's not even up for dispute. So fuck Republicans, fuck Democrats. Shout out to Rashida Tlaib. A special fuck you to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez because she could have really put her name to some shit, and she is really showing us what kind of time she is on. She is all about careerism. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has her eyes on the prize, so that she is looking for that power. She wants to be Senator AOC. And listen, you cannot be Senator AOC voting against Israel coming out of New York, okay? That's not anti-Semitic. That's just what the fuck it is, okay? That's understanding the constituency, and it is not cool, especially for someone like her who has helped to build her brand on her alliance with the people of Palestine, right? And their conditions and speaking out. But this is not the first time that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has tabled her principles in favor of her political ambition. So a special fuck you to AOC, a special fuck you to Nancy Pelosi, a special fuck you to Joe Biden and all the rest of you sucker ass Democrats who continually look the other way and disregard the plight of the Palestinian people. We stand with Palestine. We want a free Palestine, and we will call out anybody who is sometimey on Palestine. So I just had to share that with y'all. Thank you, Vespa X. Thank you, Alede 747 Frenny French. As always, thank you so much, darling. I really appreciate y'all. Pimp C, Courtney the SLP. Y'all are the greatest. Kevz 24/7. I appreciate y'all hanging out. Special thanks to my guest, Amorous Ebony. Please follow Amorous Ebony on social media. Find and follow the Say Her Name Coalition so you can get more information about that. Guys, I appreciate y'all rocking with me in overtime. I know we went a little long. But anyway, on behalf of Tunde and Mali, we will see y'all back here on Tuesday. Gang, don't forget, tomorrow on Black Power Media, it is Warrior Class time with Brother Balagoon Ochade. That is at 1 p.m. And be sure to check out the entire slate of Black Power Media programming. Go over to Black Power Media and subscribe, and I will see you on Black Power Media next Wednesday and Thursday mornings, 8 a.m. for the Remix Morning Show. Guys, y'all fucking rock. And what else do we gotta say? What else? Cause what? Yes, that's right. That is correct. COVID is still out here jumping on people. So family, conduct yourself accordingly out here in these streets. Mask up, wash your hands, social distance, vaccinate, just to make it a little bit easier for everybody. But yeah, stay safe out here, guys, because it's still not a game. COVID is out here jumping on people. I do not want it to jump on you. So do what you need to do to keep yourself and your family safe. We will see y'all next week. Y'all are the greatest. See y'all later. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.